our forefathers said, we're going to set aside this place, we're going to protect it, and we're going to keep it this way, clean and healthy for all time.
But we're in love with the boundary waters, we always have been. We don't want to see it damaged. Every piece of the boundary waters is just as important as any other.
Where do we allow an industry that's considered the most toxic industry in the United States? It produces 40% of the toxins released every year. It's the worst. Where do we allow that? We don't allow it in one of the most important areas in the country for our future.
Ely would not be the same town if it wasn't for the boundary waters. Ely's an end-of-the-road community, a long ways from a population base like the Twin Cities.
If we choose to allow copper mining, we are sacrificing this wilderness heritage. Our water is clean. When you go on a canoe trip, paddling down a lake, you can dip a cup into the lake and drink it. Now, where else can you do that? It's extraordinary.
Because of the boundary waters, because of this great nature that we have all around us, people want to live here, they want to retire here. They build beautiful homes on the lakes. You know, it's the lakes and the ecology and the ecosystem that supports us.
Be fair-minded in your approach to mining and in the way you talk about mining. I have friends who need jobs. That matters. People need jobs.
In 2017, Minnesota's median household income was $68,388. Ely's median household income for the same year was $35,288. So we're living up here, median family household income, on 50% of what you have.
My name's Becky Rom, and I live in Ely, Minnesota. I am the national chair of the Campaign to Save the Boundary Waters. That's a volunteer position, but in that role, I'm one of the leaders of the effort to permanently protect the watershed of the boundary waters from sulfide ore copper mining.
Yeah, I am Steve Paragas, and my wife and I and my daughter run this business called Paragas Northwoods Company, and we're a canoe outfitter and a retailer, and we're here in our bookstore and on North Central Avenue in Ely, Minnesota.
If you actually flew over the area, if you were a loon or an eagle and flew over the Quetico Superior, it would look like an inland sea with uplands that are islands.
I think anytime you have a journey that you take together with people, you share things with them that you wouldn't normally share every day, and you learn things about each other that helps your relationship grow.
I think it's profoundly important to have places like the boundary waters to everybody of all ages, all walks of life.
I think about my boundary waters trips all year. They're where I go for my peace. I think about my trips, my latest trips, or my other trips that I did years and years ago. I've gone with friends, I've gone with my husband, I've gone with my family.
It's a place you can go with your friends and family and really push away all the distractions of life and focus on yourself and your friends and your family. Really appreciate the world in a way that it's so much harder to do now with all of these distractions.
It was kind of nice just knowing that it's here in Minnesota. So I just kind of discovered it on my own when I was 23, and it's kind of shaped who I am now.
The problem we face today, sulfide ore copper mining, threatens all of that. It threatens the water quality. There has never been a sulfide ore copper mine in the world that has not degraded water quality. It is impossible not to do so.
The Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness is a 1.1 million acre wilderness located in northeast Minnesota. Containing over 1,100 lakes, it is the most visited wilderness in the United States. Today, this pristine area is under threat of irreversible harm. Twin Metals, a subsidiary of Antofagasta, a Chilean sulfide ore copper mining conglomerate, has been working tirelessly to open a mine within the watershed of the Boundary Waters. The sulfide-bearing ore Twin Metals aims to mine is less than 1% copper, leaving the other 99% to toxic waste. The proposal of the mine is located next to Birch Lake. The Cowishiwi River flows directly through the lake and into the Boundary Waters.
You're talking about like one of the most popular recreation lakes on the Superior National Forest. It's a place where I've got friends and family that live, and it's really important to a lot of people, and this project would just completely change that landscape. And it would you're talking about taking a semi-wild place and turning it into an industrial mining district.
I actually did teach geology here at the community college for a while. Sulfur is part of the mineral these miners are looking for. It combines with oxygen, becomes sulfuric acid. And sulfuric acid, once it's released into the ecosystem, you can't bring it back. The pH of the water goes down to a point where it kills fish and kills reptiles and everybody else that's associated with the ecosystem. And that has a direct impact on our business. So,
crush the ore to get at the copper and the nickel and the platinum and palladium and take out that 1%. What you have left in this crushed rock is what we call tailings. Very minute pieces of rock, multiple sides, and you have to store these tailings forever, somewhere. But the tailings have other things in them. They have 6 of the 10 toxic substances listed on the World Health Organization list of the 10 most toxic substances harmful to humans. So you're going to have arsenic, you're going to have mercury, you're going to have lead, you're going to have copper, you're going to have zinc. All of those are harmful. You will also have sulfate. And so as you have these tailings stored on Mother Earth, and as it precipitates up here, and we're getting wetter and wetter, so there's a lot of rain, there's a lot of snow, a leachate will come off those piles, and that leachate is called acid mine drainage. That is the toxic brew that causes harm everywhere in the world when you have sulfite-bearing ore mines. How much tailings? 2.6 to 2.8 billion tons of tailings. That will remain on the surface of the earth forever.
Dry stack technology is the gold standard in tailings management in the mining industry. It is the most environmentally responsible way to manage your tailings.
The DNR, in its findings of fact on its dam safety permit, spent several pages explaining why dry stacking is an inappropriate technology in Minnesota, because we're not dry. We're not arid, we're not Arctic, we're wet. This is a wet environment. And so dry stacking would become wet stacking. Well, Ely was many things in the beginning, and my grandfather came here to be a miner. The iron mines lasted until 1967, and we extracted all of them, and they all closed. What happened when you have an extractive industry, you eventually extract it. And tourism we've had all along, and that has continued to thrive. And then we've evolved to be something else. None of us here are tourists. We live here, right? This is an amenity-based economy. People live here because they want to live here, and they bring all these other jobs.
So taconite mining took over from underground iron ore mining in the late 60s. And there are a lot of people that have been employed in those businesses, but they had a huge recession in the early 1980s. We were here in 1980s, and you could buy a house in Ely for $10,000 or less, you know, because people were totally unemployed for several years. And that recession that hit the mining industry back then, we're still feeling the impacts of that.
We are going to be employing 700 people directly through the mine, and that, according to DEED, will also generate 1,400 spin-off jobs. So think about the impact that has in Northeast Minnesota. It's a really important project.
You know, there just aren't going to be many of those jobs. And one thing that's happened in mining since the 80s, when there were 17,000 people employed in the taconite industry in the early 80s, now there's, 3,500. They still mine the same amount of taconite. So it's because it's become mechanized, it's become automated. It's robots who drive the trucks now, and it's not people. And so there was very few jobs in mining. There'll be very few people from Ely who, if there was a copper mine built on the edge of the Boundary Waters, there were not going to be a lot of Ely people that work there.
We're a small business economy. That actually is healthier, because that kind of diversity means that if one business goes out of business, or 3 or 4 or 5, you still are there, thriving with a lot of different variety. You trade that in and rely on one big giant foreign mining company that at the end of the day, because of its duty to its shareholders, is going to leave. They're going to leave. and you're trading this in for that? That makes no sense.
Really, it's nature that supports us. It's the nature that supports this whole town.
Twin Metals is a limited liability company. That's a corporate shield. That's an artificial structure set up to shield Antofagasta from liability. This company is going to leave. We've got this contamination sitting here for hundreds of years. Do you think you can go back to the billionaire Luksic family and get any kind of compensation for the damage they've done to our community? No, because their fingerprints aren't on it. The owner is Twin Metals. And at the end of the day, the one asset Twin Metals will own is a polluted mine site, which has a negative value.
In 2016, the chief of the U.S. Forest Service, Thomas Tidwell, wrote a 26-page letter explaining his decision to deny the mineral leases for the proposed Twin Metals sulfide ore copper mine near the Boundary Waters, citing the environmental risks and many reputable studies. When the Trump administration took power, the decision was reversed along with the cancellation of a 20-year study with information critical to determining the mine's environmental impact. Trump had a rally in Duluth, a nearby city.
Tonight, I'm proudly announcing that we will soon be taking the first steps to rescind the federal withdrawal in Superior National Forest.
70% of Minnesotans oppose the mine. It is clear to us that the Canoe Country wilderness is more important than a few temporary jobs. This war is far from being won, but in the same way that a long portage is both difficult and rewarding, so too are battles worth fighting.
If it's the right place, have at it. You can pollute, you can destroy the landscape, you can harm the ecosystem. Our laws all allow it.
I think they know in their heart that they're going to sacrifice this wilderness area for their profit.
Do we instead want to develop and exploit our natural resources for small trace amounts of metals, copper and nickel, for employment for 20 or 30 years? Or do we want to keep intact the Canoe Country wilderness? We have to choose.
This is not our wilderness. We're borrowing it from our future generations to love and to maintain so that they have it to love as pristine as it is today.